Okay, thanks so much for joining us today. We just had a chat with Sydney and Ronan and our candidate Jim Hansen here for Burnaby North Seymour, chatting about housing and what we're up against with the housing crisis. This is Justin Trudeau's housing crisis. We've got a chart here that lays out how the price of housing has increased over the past number of years. And the reality is, over the past 6 years, things have just gotten so much worse. People cannot find a home that's in their budget. And we heard from Sydney and Ronan, there's a number of things that happen when you can't find a home that's in your budget. One, you've got to make choices. Do I continue with my career in the city where my career is, where my job is, or do I find a place that I can afford, but it's so far away that I've got to completely change my life and move away from friends and family? That's a pretty impossible choice for people to make. On top of that, we heard from Sydney and Ronan, they're literally not sure about the next steps they can take for their family, not because they're taking their time to figure it out, but literally because they cannot find a home where they can grow their family. That should not be how things are. And that's the reality that so many Canadians are faced with. Sydney and Ronan's story is not unique. There are so many people that feel this way. And one of the big reasons why this is happening is because Justin Trudeau's let this happen. Over the past 6 years, it's only gotten worse. And we know one of the big causes is there's a lot of big money in housing. And so we've got a choice in this election. Do we want to let Justin Trudeau continue to let investors, rich investors, be the priority? Or do you choose a New Democrat and you vote for New Democrats who are going to vote for our team that's going to take big money out of housing so that it's not people competing with large and wealthy corporations, but it's people actually trying to get a home that's in their budget? We also want to build more affordable homes. Our plan is to build 500,000 new homes that are within people's budgets so people can actually afford to take those next steps in their family, to grow their family, or to continue their careers and not have to worry about leaving their friends and family behind. Thank you. Donc, on a eu une conversation avec Sydney et Ronan. Et ils ont partagé leur histoire, comment c'est difficile de trouver un logement qui est dans leur budget. Et c'est une réalité pour les gens à travers le pays. J'ai parlé avec plusieurs familles à Montréal qui ont les mêmes défis de trouver un logement abordable. Et cette crise est vraiment une crise créée, augmentée par les décisions de Justin Trudeau. Pendant les 6 ans qu'il était au pouvoir, la situation s'empirait. Et dans cette élection, on a un choix entre Justin Trudeau, qui défend les intérêts des riches investisseurs, ou de voter pour les néo-démocrates qui règlent la crise du logement. C'est un choix que vous pouvez faire. Et dans mon avis, on doit régler cette crise pour aider les familles, pour s'assurer que tout le monde a la capacité de trouver un logement qui est dans le budget. With that, I want to thank everybody, and je suis prêt pour vos questions. I'm ready for any questions you might have. Thanks so much.
Merci, thank you. We will start with questions on the ground. Olivia Stefanovic from CBC News.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. I'd like to get your reaction to the Nova Scotia election results. The NDP, the provincial NDP, placed a distant third, and I'm wondering if this makes you concerned at all, and if there are any lessons you can take from this provincial election to use for your federal campaign.
Well, I want to just shout out the provincial leader, Gary Burrell, and the great campaign that he ran. What we saw in this election was a liberal government that called an election hoping to find a majority that was surprised to lose that entirely. And I think that's a lesson for Justin Trudeau. He clearly said that that this election shouldn't have happened. He voted in a motion to say that we shouldn't be having an election in a pandemic, and now walked away from that commitment. We're in the election now, and we want to make sure people know they've got a choice. They're not stuck voting for a liberal government or Justin Trudeau who continues to allow the housing crisis to get worse, who protects rich investors. They can choose a New Democrat. They can vote for a New Democrat who's going to fight for them and their family, make sure we build more affordable homes, we take big money out of housing. Comme on a vu en Nouvelle-Écosse, Premièrement, je veux saluer et féliciter le travail de Gary Burrell, le chef du parti néo-démocrate en Nouvelle-Écosse. Et ce qu'on a appris dans cette élection, on a vu que en Nouvelle-Écosse, les libéraux ont voulu avoir une majorité et ils étaient surpris qu'ils ont complètement perdu leur pouvoir. Et peut-être c'est un message pour Justin Trudeau qui a fait déclencher une élection que les Canadiens et Canadiennes ne voulaient pas, ne veulent pas. Mais on est dans cette élection et on a un choix entre Justin Trudeau qui continue de défendre les intérêts des riches investisseurs ou de voter pour un néo-démocrate qui vont régler la crise du logement et défendre les intérêts de monsieur, madame, tout le monde.
You've called this campaign a selfish summer election. Are you concerned that a fourth wave could prevent some people from voting or skew the results in any way?
I think it's clear that this election was selfish because Justin Trudeau himself voted in a motion to say that there should not be an election while we're in a pandemic. That vote was 327 MPs that said, no, we should not have a summer election or an election during the pandemic, to one who said, okay, it was all right. And amongst those, Justin Trudeau was one of those who said, yeah, we should not have this election. And then he walked away from that commitment. So that was a bad decision. We are confident that we will have the public safety measures in place so people can participate. But there's certainly a lot of concerns. There is a real concern around the fourth wave. People are concerned about the crisis in BC with the forest fires. A lot of communities are saying, we're worried about saving our homes. We can't even think about an election right now. So there's a lot of difficulty going on. And it was a wrong decision, but now people have a choice. Do they want to choose to vote for someone like Justin Trudeau, who continues to allow the housing crisis to get worse, or to vote for New Democrats who are going to fight to make sure that they can have a home that's in their budget?
Next question, we have Annie Bergeron-Oliver from CTV News.
Hi there.
Hey there.
Major General Denny Forte was in court today. He was charged with one count of sexual assault dating back to an incident that allegedly happened in 1988. Forte today came out and said that he believes that this was all political, and he says as well that the timing surprised his legal team, especially given the fact he's next in court September 20th. I'm wondering what you think about the timing of all of this happening.
In all of this, really what I'm deeply, deeply concerned about is the message that's being sent to women, not just in the Canadian Forces, but across Canada. Women have raised serious concerns that have been completely ignored by the highest office of this land, by the Defense Minister, by the Prime Minister and his office. And one of the major demands or recommendations of the Deschamps report has been to put in place an independent process for women to bring forward these serious concerns, these worse than concerns, these sexual harassments. And instead of listening to what the report required to protect women, to make sure women can come forward, we've got Liberals that are just not really focusing on people, and they're just now launching another report and saying, well, we'll have another justice look at this, when they've completely ignored that in all of this, women are being sent this chilling message that they're not being listened to, they're not being heard, and their concerns aren't being taken seriously. For me, the priority has to be we implement that immediate independent process so that we can start fixing this culture that has allowed so much violence against women to be commonplace in the military. This has to end.
En français, s'il te plaît?
Pour moi, ce qui est primordial dans cette question de ce qui se passe dans les forces canadiennes, c'est vraiment le message envoyé aux femmes. Le message qui était envoyé aux femmes, c'est vous n'êtes pas écoutés, vous n'êtes pas entendus. On a eu un cas de harcèlement sexuel qui est arrivé au bureau du Premier ministre, du ministre de la Défense, et ils n'ont rien fait. C'est complètement inexcusable. Et ce qu'il doit faire maintenant, c'est de mettre en œuvre, il doit mettre en œuvre la recommandation de rapport Deschamps qui dit clairement qu'on a besoin d'un processus indépendant pour que les femmes puissent soulever les inquiétudes, les plaintes. Et sinon, le message envoyé est horrible, pas seulement pour les femmes dans les forces canadiennes, mais à travers le pays.
And on housing, the sign behind you says it's Trudeau's housing crisis. You says it's his fault that housing prices have gone up so much. But countries all around the world are facing a major crisis in terms of housing. Both houses are unaffordable or there just aren't enough. So what specifically are you going to do to ensure that people are going to be able to afford a house? Obviously, something like this, that's a $2 or $3 million property, is never going to be affordable for 99% of people. So one, tell me a bit about this location, why you chose it, and two, what specific measures are you going to put in place to ensure, and how quickly can that be done?
Sure. We know that amongst the OECD countries, that Canada has the worst record in terms of housing prices increasing. So Justin Trudeau has shown the worst leadership. And under his leadership, being Prime Minister, things have gotten so much worse. People like Sydney and Ronan cannot find a place. It's not gotten any better. Things have simply gotten worse. And he's done a lot of things for show, made a lot of announcements around housing, but people aren't any better off. And that to me is wrong. What we can do is take this crisis seriously. I've seen Justin Trudeau take certain things seriously. In the beginning of this pandemic, he backstopped big banks with $750 billion. It is a staggering figure, and I'm still shocked every time I think about it. But that was his immediate decision. That was a priority for him, and he did it. Housing has simply not been a priority. And since it's not been a priority, it's only gotten worse. What we're saying, there's a number of things we need to do. First off, we've got to get big money out of housing. Right now, when you're trying to buy a home, people are often competing with large corporations with billions of dollars at their disposal. That should not be what happens. People shouldn't have to compete with large companies, billion-dollar companies when they're trying to buy a home. So we take big money out of housing. One of the key steps is to put in place a national foreign buyers tax of 20%. Now, Justin Trudeau talked about this, you'll recall, right before the election was called. But again, another example of being all for show. If he wanted to get it done, he didn't need to call an election. He could have gone back to Ottawa, and we would have made sure that was passed. So another example of him not really wanting to get things done to make things better for people. But we would do that. And the second thing is we would invest significantly and seriously in building homes that are within people's budgets, building affordable homes, whether they're not-for-profit or cooperative, or building homes within the rental market that are affordable, or homes that people can buy. We have done this in the past as a nation. We can do it again. It will create good jobs and make sure people like Ronan and Sydney have a place that's within their budget.
Prochaine question, Jean-Sébastien Cloutier de Radio-Canada.
Bonjour. Sur votre nouvelle du jour, vous annoncez un demi-million de logements sociaux, 20% de taxes pour les acheteurs étrangers. Les façons sont différentes, mais quand même, les libéraux ont promis les logements sociaux, ont promis une taxe pour les acheteurs étrangers. Les gens qui ne suivent pas la politique de trop près, parfois, ont quand même de la difficulté à se retrouver entre vos promesses et celles de Justin Trudeau. En quelques mots, concrètement, pourquoi ce seraient les vôtres qui seraient les meilleurs?
On a un bilan de Justin Trudeau de 6 ans. Et pendant le temps qu'il était au pouvoir, est-ce que la situation était améliorée ou empirée? La preuve est que c'était empiré. C'est la réponse. Justin Trudeau a eu la chance, il a manqué l'opportunité de régler le problème. Les néo-démocrates vont régler le problème.
Merci. Et sur un autre sujet, à nouveau sur les passeports vaccinaux, le gouvernement tergiverse un peu sur les conséquences à donner aux employés, par exemple fédéraux, qui ne voudraient pas se faire vacciner. Quelle est votre position là-dessus? Quelles conséquences devrait-on donner à ceux qui refusent de le faire?
Pour moi, je veux cibler pourquoi on doit le faire. La raison pour laquelle on doit s'assurer que tout le monde soit vacciné, c'est pour protéger la population, en particulier pour protéger les enfants. Parce qu'à ce moment, les enfants de moins de 12 ans ne peuvent pas être vaccinés. Donc, on doit faire ce qu'on peut pour protéger nos enfants. Et ça, c'est pourquoi on a dit clairement qu'on va pas seulement avoir des vaccinations mandatoires au niveau fédéral, on va travailler avec les syndicats, mais on veut avoir une deadline en septembre pour la réaliser. Et oui, si quelqu'un décide, c'est le choix de décider non, on doit avoir des conséquences. Et c'est important parce qu'on doit protéger la population et protéger nos enfants.
Mais quel genre de conséquences? Quel genre de conséquences?
Si quelqu'un n'est pas vacciné, peut-être il ne peut pas travailler dans cette position.
Just repeat that in English on the consequences, please.
Yeah. Should I just sort that out? Sometimes you just got to do it all, right? Gives me time to think there. No, I'm joking. The consequence, if someone doesn't get vaccinated and they need to get vaccinated, it's mandatory, then they're not able to be in that position. So that would be one of the potential consequences.
En français.
Une conséquence spécifique, c'est si quelqu'un ne veut pas être vacciné, il ne peut pas continuer potentiellement dans le même travail.
Next question, Mike Locutar, Global News.
Mr. Singh, your proposal on the buyer's tax is a one-time tax. The Liberals had proposed a 1% reoccurring tax. Tell me why your proposition is better than a potential reoccurring tax that would continue to bring the government money if a house is, as they put it, underused or vacant.
Our goal isn't to use this as a revenue stream. It's to discourage and to take out big money. And that's the big difference. Justin Trudeau doesn't really want to get rid of big money in housing. And he's shown it again and again. He's not interested in taking on big money in a lot of areas. He's not interested in taking on big polluters. He exempted them. He's not interested in taxing the ultra-rich. He allows them to continue to make record profits, companies like Amazon, and pay virtually no tax. So it's an ongoing theme here. Justin Trudeau doesn't actually want to take on big money. And for us, we want to make it so it is not at all a viable option for big money from foreign countries to invest in the Canadian housing market. We want the Canadian housing market to be for Canadians who need a home. It should not be for big business. And that's really the difference. We're here to take them out of the equation, where Justin Trudeau wants to tinker with it. We want them out.
Just as a follow-up, but a separate question, I know it's early, but early in this campaign, how difficult is it for you as somebody who is known that likes to get into crowds, likes to be with people, shake hands, but because of the pandemic you can't do that? How difficult is it for you to connect with voters virtually, but also in person, that you're not able to really get close to them, to getting close for selfies and that kind of thing? And how much could it hinder your momentum and you feeling the momentum of the campaign?
Well, it's true that I really enjoy the connection with people. That is something that I love. I get energy from meeting people. I hear people's stories, and it gives me more motivation to fight for them. And so we can still hear people's stories. We can still make sure, today we spent some time with Ronan in Sydney. We could hear their story. I could see, the worry on their face, the fact that they want to be able to live a good life, and they're thinking, but they're doing everything right. They're working, they're trying to pay down student debt, but they just can't get ahead. And I could feel that frustration. I feel that from so many people, that sense of how do I fix this? What do I do? What more can I do? And so I can still feel that. I would love to be in big crowds and enjoy that energy. So we're gonna have to do things differently, but we'll adapt. And it's important that, for me, campaigns are an opportunity to highlight people, to celebrate people, and to raise their concerns and to fight for them. And so that's what we'll do in this campaign. We'll have to do it in maybe slightly different ways, but that'll always be what we do, what New Democrats do in a campaign. Is the hero of our story are people, and we want to make sure that their stories are heard, and we're fighting for them.
Next question, we have Frances Bula from the Globe and Mail.
Hi, on housing. So the Liberals in the National Housing Strategy promised 160,000 new homes over 10 years. You're promising 500,000 over 10 years, which is triple. They didn't even get to that, according to the Parliamentary Budget Office, and also it was judged not affordable by a lot of people, most of the housing. So what specifically would you do differently to make sure you can actually get to the 500,000? Aside from importing laborers from all around the world? And how would you change the programs for more affordability? I'm sure you know that a lot of the money comes from loan programs that are going to private developers. So how would you change that?
I really appreciate the question. I would say really the fundamental difference is our approach is we want to get big money out of housing. We want to make sure that we're tackling the price, the speculation that's driving up the cost of housing. Those forces are powerful, and they're making it so that Canadians, people that are looking to buy a home, are having to compete with people who are using the housing market as like a stock market. They're using it to try to make more profit and flip properties and buy them to create more profit. Whereas people are just trying to find a home that's their place they can grow their family. And that's really the big difference. We really want to take the big money out of this equation. We want to make sure people are able to actually find a place that's in their budget. So that's one big approach that's different. We're open to, we want to make this a priority. So we've seen governments make other things a priority. We've seen Justin Trudeau make buying a pipeline a priority, and he got it done. When something's a priority, governments get it done. For us, housing is a priority. This is something we care about, and we know how desperate people are feeling, and we know that we've got to put every resource possible towards solving it. And I believe in a country as wealthy as ours, a G7 nation, a country with the resources that we have, with the technology that we have, that we can solve this. It's simply a matter of will. And that's what we'll do. We will put all our will towards making sure people can find a home. I'm committed to that.
Okay, so that doesn't actually answer my question. How will you change existing programs and ensure that you can ramp up to triple what the Liberals' goal was that they didn't reach?
I mean, it's
besides your will.
Well, it's an easy thing to compare. When we look at the Liberals, we look at the things that they do. When they want to get things done, they get it done. The power of government is significant. They get things done. When they don't want to get things done, they're also pretty clear on that too. They talked a lot about things like pharmacare, and they'll say it's not possible. We're the only country in the world that has a universal Medicare system that doesn't include pharmacare. It can be done. And Liberals will tell you it can't be done. That's their whole goal, is to say, oh, it's too hard, it's impossible, it's too much of a burden to overcome. I don't buy that. I believe if we make something a priority, we've got the resources and the skill and the technology to get it done. And that's the difference between New Democrats and Liberals. We believe in making this a priority, and we will get it done.
Next question, we have Nick Wells from Canadian Press.
Thanks for taking my question. Do you think it's the role of government to manage the pace of price growth, inflation, and if so, what specifically would you do? Given Mr. O'Toole says you're partly to blame for the elevated inflation readings we've been getting.
For New Democrats, the question is simple. If we're not investing in people in a crisis, the only outcome will be that those at the very top get richer and everyone else struggles. That is the outcome, and we've seen that. We've already heard people mention this K-shaped recovery, that if you don't actually put in help for people, the recovery will be one where if you've got lots of money to begin with and people are going through difficult times, the people at the very top, the richest folks, will be able to buy more. They'll be able to snatch at more properties, or they'll be able to buy businesses that are shutting down. And people that are struggling are going to continue to struggle worse. Aaron O'Toole is fine with that. He doesn't care that if we don't invest in people, that people will end up struggling more, because that's not his goal. I have a different goal. My goal is to make sure everyday people are supported. And we know the only way we do that is if we invest in them. It's not only good for people, but it's also good for the economy. If people are able to live a good life, if we can take off the burden of worrying about the cost of medication or the cost of taking care of their teeth, if we can make sure people have a home that's within their budget, we all benefit. And that's really our approach. New Democrats believe we are better off when we take better care of each other. And that's better for the economy, and that's better for people. But it's better for an economy that's designed around making sure people are better off, not that those at the very top are better off. And that's really the difference between me and the Liberals and the Conservatives. We are focused on people, making sure an economy works for people, not just for those at the top.
On va passer aux questions sur Zoom. Si vous avez une question, utilisez la fonction lever la main. We will go to questions on Zoom. If you have a question, please use the raise your hand function. We've got Prabjot from Red FM.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. It's not related to housing, but overdose is a big issue in British Columbia and across Canada. How do you plan to solve this problem? Because NDP in British Columbia proposes to allow some amount of drug to be possessed by people so that they can use it. What's your proposition? How do you plan to solve the problem?
It's, first of all, a really serious problem. We've been really focused on the pandemic and the COVID-19 crisis, but it hasn't meant that other crises have gone away. And one of those crises is the opioid crisis. And we've seen an increase in people losing their lives to this really horrible crisis. For us, we believe, and a lot of Canadians believe, we've got to do whatever we can to save lives. And if saving lives means changing our approach, then we've got to be open to changing our approach. We know that the approach that has been taken in the past hasn't worked. When people are dealing with addiction, when people are dealing with poverty, when people are dealing with mental health issues and end up using some of these horrible substances, these are people that don't need a criminal justice response. These are people that need a healthcare response, a compassionate response. And if the goal is to save lives and to make our community safer, we should be open to a different approach. We believe we need to take an approach that's based on compassion and care and healthcare so we can save lives and make sure people are healthier and safer.
Thank you. If I may ask a question, follow up.
Yes.
Law enforcement often says that, well, this won't really work because people who are supplying the drugs will always be ahead and will make sure that some sort of substance, some sort of new street mix comes in and that sells quicker and faster than drugs that have already been allowed on the street. So what about the supply issue? How are you going to control how this drug is being supplied?
Again, I would look at what are our goals. If our goal is to make sure we save lives and our goal is to make sure people are safer, then we need to be open to what the evidence shows us. There's examples around the world. One of the examples that I look at is the Portugal model, where instead of arresting people, people are given the opportunity to have access to rehabilitation, rehab services so that they can deal with the addiction or they can deal with the underlying problems. I want to save lives. And I want to do whatever we can to save lives, and I want to do whatever we can to keep people healthy and safe. And I think we need to be bold and be courageous and be compassionate and be willing to look at the solutions that actually work if our goal is to save lives and build safer communities.
Next question, we've got Mary Brooke from the Island Social Trends.
Hi, Mr. Singh.
Hey there.
Nice weather. So on building more affordable homes, there's the idea of the national foreign buyers tax that would prevent. But to actually build those homes, it depends on having developers and builders and the skilled labor to ramp that up on the one hand. And so how would you address that? And then the other is low-income people or people who can't yet consider buying a home. Would you provide some sort of grant or credit to give them kind of a leg up to work toward that?
I think we need to be open to all potential solutions. So any way that we can help with people that want to find a home and how we can get them there, I think we need to be open to those solutions. We need to be putting our resources to back up the seriousness of the crisis. So we need to mobilize funding to build those homes. We've seen in the past that CMHC was used more actively to actually invest in building homes. There hasn't been a lot of new cooperative homes built in a long time. And we need to make sure resources are mobilized so we can build more cooperative homes. I want to see a massive mobilization of capital at the federal level towards the goal of building these homes. That's our goal, and if we put our resources towards it, it's achievable. And that does mean putting more money on the table. That does mean making sure we are hiring the workforce required. And that does mean looking at a better way to achieve our goals. And I think it should be, as much as possible, looking at public opportunities to invest and build homes. But we need to work with developers as well. But we need to incentivize the building of affordable homes. It's all something we can do if we make it a priority. And for us, it is a priority.
Okay, and looking at the Conservative platform that they announced just the other day, most of the things in there, if not all, depend on people already having money in order to take advantage of like a sudden spree of spending and so on within a short period of time after the election. So what do you say about that in comparison to how the NDP would handle benefits for people? And again, sort of to reflect on the Conservatives, the people who are already stuck and wouldn't benefit at all by their program, they seem to be unaware that that would happen.
I think that is not a surprise that Conservatives are putting forward a plan that's going to just help people that are already doing all right instead of helping people that need more help. New Democrats are focused on making sure we've got an economy that works for everyone. And what we've seen from the track record of Liberals and Conservatives in the past is they sometimes might suggest that they're going to help people that are, okay. Really what they do is help people at the very top. And their policies have done that time and time again. They continue to allow billionaires to make more and more wealth but not pay their fair share. They allow foreign companies like Amazon to make record profits in a pandemic but not pay virtually any taxes in Canada. They have designed a system that benefits those at the very top. So it's not surprising that they're going to continue to put forward ideas that don't actually help everyday folks. You Democrats have a different approach. We want to make sure we invest in the things that will help all workers, that will help all families, small businesses. And we know what they're saying is we shouldn't have to worry about the cost of medication. We need to make sure our dental care is covered. We want to make sure we can find homes that are within our budget. We want to see good jobs that help us fight the climate crisis. That's what we're focused on. And we're focused on making sure that the billionaires and millionaires of our country are paying their fair share instead of enjoying offshore tax havens or loopholes that allow them to get away with not paying their fair share. That's the different approach we would take.
This concludes our press conference. Thank you. Merci.
Merci. Thanks very much, everyone.